What's up, folks, and welcome to Indie Ramble. So, I got a roguelite for you today. It's been a hot minute since we've covered one of these. And this one is really cool because, well, if I could describe it in 3 words, it would be Cyberpunk Dead Cells. And those are two things that I love a great deal, though this is definitely... there's more to it than that. So, yes, this is Loopmancer, and it actually came out a little while ago, but it's taken me a little while to get to this point where I can really make my full sort of opinion on it, I think. So, this comes to us from a Chinese studio, actually, and it's... well, there's a lot this game has going for it. A few things that are kind of... but you'll see here in a minute. So, this definitely wears its Dead Cells inspirations up front, but it has some of its own cool things as well. And there's actually a lot of moving parts to this game.
No matter what you try to do.
So this is a cutscene that is related to the story, but don't worry, you won't understand anything about it to this point. So here we go. So you're basically going through I guess a time loop per se. If you die in this game, you end up reverting back to the beginning. Like Dead Cells, but a different conceit, really.
Do come by the office today. Something urgent came up.
So, there is actually a lot of dialogue in this, and it's all voiced. The thing with this game is the plot of it is... it's very anime. And, well, there's a lot of dialogue.
The director seems stressed.
Not all of it is super well translated. It's actually pretty good overall, but you can tell that there's some nuances that were lost sometimes. And the voice acting is very anime, and that everybody in this overacts. Even the actors that sound like they're very good at English, which is most of them, to be honest with you, really overacts, and it can get a little grating at times. Certainly not enough to dissuade from the experience, and you can skip through dialogue and cutscenes if you want, which is nice. So when you start what's called a loop, you start in your apartment here. This has a slower going to get you into your gameplay loop than Dead Cells, but I also find that an average loop lasts a lot longer than Dead Cells too. So there's that. So you have the ability to level up certain attributes in your apartment from something called cores that you'll pick up throughout the course of your play. You can change your outfit. You can buy new outfits with for a fairly high price, actually, with these core things, but it's cosmetic. That's all it is. There are a ton of things you can pick up to read. There's diaries, there's notes, there's all kinds of things in the world. I've been skipping most of them. And then you get in your car to start your next loop, and you head into your work. So you are a detective. The backstory behind this, and this is revealed pretty early on, is that your wife and daughter were in a horrible car crash, and the car crash was actually meant for you. It was set up by one of your enemies. Your daughter was killed, and your wife is paralyzed and extremely depressed. Really is wondering why she should go on living. And there's sort of various... this is a cyberpunk dystopian city. There are entire sections of this city that are run by gangs, and the gangs are also colluding with mega corporations. And you're trying to investigate not only what happened to your wife, but what's happening with this whole gangland rebellion. And you're going to have to go through a number of different environments to figure that out. And the interesting part about it is, so
You don't look so
this
good.
is where you get your briefing every loop.
Lucine, I need your help. I can't find Wenjun.
I'll let this play
I
here.
just went to her apartment. No one was there, and she isn't answering her phone.
I'll have the intel unit search for her at once.
She's been kidnapped.
What? Kidnapped by who?
It was Koga Industry. They want me to get Wei Long's eBRAIN and trade it for her.
How could you own Wei Long's eBRAIN? I was just going to task you with going to Longxi Town and interrogating Wei Long about that reporter's whereabouts.
Me taking Wei Long's eBRAIN hasn't happened yet. I keep repeating the mission to search for Lisbeth. Every time I fail, I wake up again this morning. It wasn't until I made some more progress that I realized Wenjun would become involved.
Whoa. Let me get this straight. You're experiencing today over and over again? Soon, you're going to take Wei Long's eBRAIN in Longxi Town?
Now, Wei Long will soon be taken away by Koga Industry. Taking Wei Long's eBRAIN doesn't happen until later. I really want to tell you more of what I've been through, but we should wait until I'm back from Longxi Town. Oh yeah, one more thing. You need to investigate a man named Sung Boyong. He's also involved in Lisbeth's disappearance.
Okay, I understand. I'll wait for you to return from Longxi Town.
Now, the reason I let that lengthy dialogue play is to give you an idea of what the dialogue is like in this game. It is often very wordy, and as you can plainly hear, most of the actors, especially your character, they are chewing right down on that scenery.
Sure, you are back.
Hi, Director.
You don't look so good. Are you all right?
Case in point here. So,
I'm
but now the interesting thing about this, though, is because you're kind of having like a Groundhog Day style experience where you're looping back every day. Every time you loop back, you have to start over again. You have to start, you know, all of your levels over again. But you keep tidbits of information that you learn because you don't lose your memory. So as you could see in that beginning dialogue there, I was actually telling that lady what I knew, and she was like, what? And, you know, she believes you a little bit easily, but you're sort of helping move things ahead by retaining the tidbits that you have. So there are a ton of weapons in this game that you can unlock. You can start off with some standard ones or go with what you had in your last run. You actually have to buy blueprints in the world that allow you to basically unlock the ability to use other weapons later. It's actually a pretty cool system. So there's another guy here that you can talk to as well as your weapons guy.
My man, it's been a while. You don't look so hot.
Dave Ray, I'm fine.
His name's Dave Ray?
There's no bad mood that a good meal can't
He's
fix.
actually a cool guy,
Take
but
a look at the goodies I prepared for you.
You can also talk to him to upgrade the various weapons that you are carrying on you at the time with, I believe they're called e-coins that you pick up in the world. So there's more to this. We're going to get out of here and get into a loop so that I can show you what happens here. So this game plays it looks very 3D, but it plays on a 2D plane. So you're going left to right and a little bit of up and down. And your goal is to kill a bunch of enemies, get to your objective, deal with a boss in many cases, which are quite interesting, and learn more about what your next objective is. At certain points in your loops, you will have the option to make multiple choices to go to different locations, and the order in which you do so can determine how the story progresses. There's also some interesting choices later on that I won't spoil that can significantly impact the well-being of various characters you'll come across, so that is something to keep in mind as well. And sometimes it can be a question of making a difficult choice or an easier choice, but the easier choice comes with more difficult work that you have to do. So this is the senior mission intel officer who gives you info about every area you go into. You can ask her about a whole bunch of different things if you want. We're not going to do that because we've already wasted enough time. And off you go. So this combat, again, is very much like Dead Cells in that you have a melee weapon and a ranged weapon. And you also have a sort of a tertiary ability as well as two different kinds of special abilities, actually. One is an ability that is on a cooldown that you can use that does extra damage to enemies, and the other is like an uber kill ability that you have to sort of charge up by doing damage and by killing enemies in the world. So I'm going to show you all these. So I've got what I've equipped here is my sword. You have guns as well, and then that's sort of the tertiary one, which is I throw bottles to stagger guys. And then I have this move equipped, which is kind of like a Hadouken almost, and as you can see, it's on a cooldown timer there, and I'll show you the other ability when I can. You'll find these sort of healing centers in the world. They'll heal you up to a certain point. After that, if you want to get more healing capability out of it, you have to use one of your cores to repair it. Those cores can be used for upgrades later, so use them wisely. Now, here is one of the opportunities to upgrade something. So this is the Earthquake ability. So this is a chip ability. So what you can choose to do, if you want this to become available to you, you can choose to dump in the e-coins that you found so far. As many or as few as you want, up to and including, if you have enough, buying the thing outright. If you don't, you invest that much into it, and it stays like that. So in future runs, it will still be there, and when you fill it up, it becomes available to you permanently on all subsequent runs. It's a really cool idea. Does it make a lot of sense to have these terminals just out in the middle of the world? No, it doesn't. But from a point of, yo, this is a video game, really cool idea that I really like. So you're going to see in certain levels here, there are these little hook points that you have to go to in order to progress up to where you have to go. The levels are, to a certain degree, procedurally generated, but the core route is generally always the same. So this is just a thing I can pick up that usually gives you more ammo. You also have healing potions that you can use, and you can level up that ability so that you can carry more at a time. They won't heal you fully.
Gotta watch your ass.
So this is a cutscene, story cutscene. I'll skip this because it leads up. It leads up to a bigger fight, but I'll let you guys see that on your own. So you have the ability to dodge, which allows you to get by enemies. Enemies you'll see will sort of flash like that when they're going to do a major attack, so you want to try to dodge them on that. You can also, if you want to use some stamina, you can hold down left bumper to sprint. This is another game where a controller is not required, but highly recommended. And as you go through these areas, you'll also run into this guy, which is a weapon merchant. His narrative justification for why he's sometimes in the middle of like gangland territory just standing around and nobody cares is because he's ultra neutral. He'll sell guns to anybody, so everybody leaves him alone. It's a little goofy of a conceit, but honestly, in a Cyberpunk universe, I could kind of see it being a thing, you know, where they're like, if everybody gets guns, then nobody has a problem. You also see there on the left side, there's different challenges. These change up with each different zone within a level that you go, and they're optional, but if you get them, you get bonus E-coins, bonus money, basically. As you can see, the characters are very goofy looking and very weird. Again, very anime, just very odd, the whole thing with this game. But the thing is you're seeing here, I actually really love the look of this. I think this looks great. I think the cyberpunk aesthetic in this is spot on. I think these visuals are borderline AAA. It looks great. The combat sounds are good. The dialogue is hammy to the point where sometimes you'll get endeared by it. Other times you'll just be like, oh, shut up already. Especially the enemy barks. They repeat a lot. They're all very, very cheeseball. The game even throws in a Wilhelm scream once in a while, which is funny the first few times, and then it just gets old. You'll sometimes find these as well. Much like Dead Cells, these are one-time upgrades that you can pick up, and all of these buffs persist throughout your run. When your run is over, you lose them, but if you the longer you stay alive and the more levels and story scenarios you get through, the more those build up. And of course, you can also do that, which is cool. And of course, you also have the ability to, as you saw, through the character in the main base, you have the ability between runs to actually upgrade. Oh, geez. Okay. This guy's not messing about. You have the ability to actually upgrade your weapons. And those weapons, so here's some of the healing things. Dead green herbs, son. And those upgrades also proceed between runs. That looks nice. Let's dump some money into that. So, though you do go back to effectively the start of the story, even though you maintain those little tidbits of knowledge you've gotten from previous runs, even though you go back to the start of the whole story at the end of every run and have to do all the bosses and all the levels over again, because your abilities and guns are persisting between runs.
We'll see who's more scared.
Yeah, that guy has different taunts every time you run into him in this level. Because of those, you have... you get more powerful each time. We'll skip this one as well. So this is the guy, one of the guys, this is one of the initial bosses. This guy completely rocked my face off the first few times I fought him, and then when I was upgraded, he was easier. And you can see I'm taking out a lot of damage from him now, and he's doing a lot less than me. So, as you upgrade, it's a proper roguelite. You know, as you upgrade, you will be more powerful, and subsequent runs, at least up until, you know, the later point where you died, will be easier, because you'll be more powerful, and the enemies don't scale. So, you know, getting through this guy, way easier than it was before. And you'll learn their their techniques. You'll learn how to balance your your iframes properly. You'll learn what weapons are best against certain enemies and what type of attacks that they prefer. You also have, there's that ability that I always forget to use, but that's the ability there that that you can use that allows you to do, it's like your god mode attack, basically. You do one attack that can slice through several enemies and does massive damage. And then...
Hi, Tissue. There's something that I forgot to tell you.
So, whatever. So he takes off, but, you know, we're aiming to, we're gonna, you know, we'll get him later. And there's a whole bunch of other things that you'll learn about different characters and about the world that you're in and about the mega corporations and some of the crap that they're pulling. Oop. Supposed to go that way. Supposed to go up here. There we go. Sometimes those things are a little hard to see. And there's a bunch of intrigue and mystery and stuff. Some of the areas also have these little things, environmental hazards. I find these, frankly, annoying and that they get kind of in the way. But there aren't that many of them, at least not that I've experienced so far. And the nice thing is the game is fair. Anything that can hurt you can hurt the enemies. I've even seen the enemies hurt each other with their own weapons. That's great. So it's tough, but fair. And in those situations, like where the cars were coming by on the road there, you can actually use that to your advantage by, you know, lining the enemies up. There we go. So as you can see, so I unlocked this auto shotgun, and when you unlock it, you can take it in that run immediately. And you know what? We're going to do that. Let's see what this is like. I like shotguns. They're always lots of fun in situations like this. Let's see what happens. Yeah, this is a fun one where cars can come at you sideways. Oh my god, that's vicious. Ooh, I like it. Now, of course, you can also skip through some of these areas more quickly if you want. But if you stick... So it's risk-reward, right? If you stick around in an area that you don't need to, you risk taking more damage and potentially losing your run, but you can get more upgrades from guys. You can get more E-coins, you can get more potential upgrades, you can find more interesting things that can help you out. It's all about, do you want to take the risk or not? And it really handles that quite well, in my opinion. So like I said, we're going to skip all these cutscenes. So that mission's now over. So we go back to the headquarters and we move on to the next location. So if you know anything about Dead Cells, you're going to know that there's obviously a lot in common here. And the story, for as sometimes unevenly told as it is, I think is interesting. These characters have a lot of motivations and a lot of struggles and a lot of things that really do make them interesting, and there's a lot of intrigue and mystery.
Really was taken. Do you need me to repeat our intel on Ditch Village or Ditch Village?
No, you don't. So this is one of the points where you can choose to go two different places. I've been to both of these places. I've never managed to complete Ditch Village, but I have completed Koga Industry. So I could go back there, or I could go to Ditch Village. And you see there, choose carefully, the stories and characters' fates will change. So let's check out Ditch Village this time. So the environments and the type of enemies you will encounter are also somewhat varied, and that's a really cool thing as well. So you see we keep the weapons from the last run, which is good, so now we can just head off if we like. So there's a lot of spinning parts to this game. There's a lot to keep track of, but there's also a lot of different ways you can play it, depending on the type of weapons that you want to focus on, the skill path that you want to pursue. There's a lot to this. And the story and the voice acting is cheeseball and kind of annoying, yes, but it doesn't remotely outweigh the core gameplay, which I think is quite good. It doesn't have the sort of... A lot of people call the combat in Dead Cells almost rhythmic or like a dance. This is definitely less fluid than that. You may have seen when I was hacking up enemies that the animations seem a little stiff and like that there aren't too many states you can get in. That's very much the case. The combat definitely doesn't feel quite as fluid or dynamic as it does in Dead Cells, but it's still very good. It's still responsive. I think the controls are really good. If you learn how to... Here, we'll just skip that. If you learn how to utilize your dodge and keep an eye on your different abilities and learn when to toggle what, and when to which enemies are good to use the right things at, you can do some pretty impressive things with the combat in this game. And see, that didn't work because that guy had a thing. But if you're careful with how you use your dodge, and you can dodge a lot and frequently in this, but you can run out of stamina if you're not careful, and that's where you got to watch it. Buddy guy here apparently is just choosing to stand in the electrical wire. I've actually never seen an enemy do something that stupid before. That is not commonplace, just so you're aware. The enemies in this are no pushover, and you do have to learn the way the different kinds of enemies attack and the different ways they will push and group together in order to do things. It's not one note button mashy combat. You know, that'll only get you so far in this game, but after a certain point you've got to learn how to utilize the tools that you have at your disposal, like that. You've got to learn how to utilize your tools and your different abilities, or you're going to get smoked. So this is a game that makes you learn and makes you work for your victories, but what in the heck? I don't even remember running into those before. Ow. But it is... Oh, you're not even dead yet. There we go. That actually hurt a lot, but that's okay. I'm kind of messing around here. So that there's a lot to learn and a lot to master here, and I think a lot of people, the sentiment around this game has generally been pretty good, but I found a couple of people who have not liked it, have said that it's just ripping off Dead Cells, which I don't believe it is. I mean, Dead Cells was so good, it kind of redefined what an awesome roguelite was. And it was a matter of time before somebody decided to use the elements of that formula to make their own thing. That's not a bad thing, in my opinion. I think people can do interesting things with it. And Cyberpunk Dead Cells, I mean, hell yeah. I think this is really cool for that. And these developers clearly put a lot of time and effort into their world building and into their art and indeed into this combat. I think I think they did a pretty good job overall with that. The story is cheeseball and the acting is cheeseball, and that's just mostly because this was made by a team for whom English is not their first language, but it was for, you know, an English market, and that's just kind of the way things, you know, things go sometimes. I've seen a lot worse, without question. And yeah, I have been enjoying this quite a bit. I think I am going to put in the time to finish this. The other major criticism that I've seen is that I've seen some people say that this game makes itself artificially too difficult. I've found that interesting, unless it really gets, like, really punitive and unfair later on. I have honestly found this so far easier than Dead Cells. I've gotten way further in this with way fewer runs than I did in Dead Cells. I mean, I have yet to finish Dead Cells, and I played that a lot. But the hallmark of a good roguelite is a game where when you die, you may be frustrated, but you immediately want to get back in and do better next time, and take the abilities that you've obtained and the new knowledge that you've learned and get back in the fight. And that's exactly what this does. I die in this, and I'm like, all right, let's go again, because I got you. And I think that's fantastic. And I think this game really nails that well. You know, can it top the king that is Dead Cells? Maybe not. But is it a very good one of those kinds of roguelites? Absolutely. And I am enjoying it very, very much. And yeah, it's got some flaws in terms of its narrative and character delivery, but I can easily overlook those for what is great combat, and while not an ideally delivered story, still a story that is very compelling to me, with characters that have actually a lot of depth to them and some interesting struggles that I want to learn more about. I do want to learn what happens to these characters and this world, you know, in spite of the corny dialogue. So that, I think, is honestly a very... Ow! The nice thing is getting hit by a subway in this only hurts. It doesn't kill you. So, you know, that's always nice. So, yeah, that is Loopmancer. It has been out for a little while now. This is one it took me a while to get to, but I still wanted to show this off to you because I do think that the Dead Cells comparisons are a little unfair in the sense that I think a lot of people are saying, "Oh, this is just a Dead Cells ripoff," and ignoring it. You really shouldn't. I think this actually has a lot of its own ideas, a lot of its own flair, and I really do think it's an excellent roguelike in general. And yeah, even if it is just Dead Cells in a cyberpunk setting, what's wrong with that? For me, that's pretty darn good. So thank you very much for watching, everybody. I do appreciate it. If you did like what you saw here, please do all the normal YouTube things. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. Leave a comment down below. Tell me, what do you think of this? You know, are you a Dead Cells player like me, and does this interest you either because of the Dead Cellsiness of it or because of something else? Are you interested in giving it a try? I think you should. But if you know, if not, why not? I'd like to know that. And have you played any other games that you would equate to Dead Cells? And what did you think of those in terms of how they stacked up versus this does? I'd love to know about that. And as always, you can follow me over at twitch.tv/pxabstraction for multiple variety streams a week. I cover other indies over there as well as retro stuff, including a bunch of things that you might not see over here on YouTube. We have a great community there, and I would love to see you be a part of it. Thanks again, everyone, and I'll see you on the next Indie Ramble. You guys have yourselves a good one. Take her easy.